PhD, and you're listening to the TyePod. Well, hi everybody. It's another edition of the TyePod, and today I am joined by Jenny Jones, who has experience with familial adenomatous polyposis and short bowel syndrome. And she is a rare patient advocate as well, and has a voice on social media in many places, has a website and a blog, and I think you host a podcast as well at times. But it's great to have you join, and I definitely would like to have you talk just a little bit about you, and yeah, then we'll just go from there and kind of have a conversation back and forth about your experiences.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Um, so I'll share a bit about what FAP is first. So it's a rare disease, it's hereditary. It's considered a colon cancer syndrome, but I always like to say it's much more than that because the polyps can really develop anywhere in the body, and there's so many different things, even not just cancer related, that it can do.
Mhm.
So I inherited that from my mom, who inherited it from her dad, and so on down the line, or up the line, I guess it'd rather
So it's
be.
a multi-generational,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it has been. Uh, and then mom and I, we actually our health journeys really married each other so much because we also both developed short bowel syndrome
Mhm.
following our surgeries to remove our colons. We both had surgical complications and from that. But so I was 8 when I got diagnosed with FAP and had my colon removed at 9, and I had complications. So I had 4 more surgeries within that first year and got short bowel syndrome. I lived with an ileostomy for 6 years. They didn't think they could reverse it, and then all of a sudden they decided, well, maybe we can. And so,
Well, that's
uh,
interesting.
yeah, I always find it sometimes what brought it up to the doctor's attention that maybe it would work was I realized if just random things that you find are normal, and they are normal, but if you don't tell your doctor about them sometimes, it doesn't click for them because they don't know.
Right,
So
okay. So sharing
after,
kind of all of the
yeah.
details that can inform, yeah.
hmm So what made it click for my doctor, which I decided to randomly mention, which I wish I had mentioned years earlier. But I think about 4 years in, I mentioned, and hey, I have mucus that I can control. Um, I can expel like you would, like a bowel movement. And she
Uh-huh,
thought,
uh-huh.
wow, you have control of your muscles still.
Yeah. And
Maybe
that,
we could reverse your ostomy.
right, right.
I'm like, that's all that took for us to try to find another surgeon that might try.
And
Wish I had
sometimes it's
known
hard
that.
to know maybe like
hmm
what to share, like what piece of normal day-to-day function for you,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
it is. And I don't even know why I mentioned that to her. I have no idea.
yeah,
Um, I know that a lot of doctors don't tend to tell their patients who have ostomies that to expect mucus to
right.
come out of their bodies. And so a lot of people don't realize that's normal. But
Yeah.
yeah, I found that if I tell very random things to my doctors, it usually actually works out in my favor.
You give a full picture of every single thing that goes on and
I do. I
yeah.
just randomly tell them things, and I'm like, and I'll tell them like this. I know this is not your area, but I'm going to
Yeah.
let you know. And then they're just like, oh, well, have you tried this? Oh, no, I haven't, but I will now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had an experience with my while I was in the intubated and I wasn't able to talk during my
Oh yeah.
gallbladder recovery and stuff. And
hmm
they kept saying that, well, you shouldn't really be talking around this inflated cuff as part of your tracheostomy. And for whatever
Right.
reason, I was getting noise through, and so
hmm
that made it where I gradually started to regain some of that. But I don't think
Oh
they had
wow.
any idea that I would be able to do that through what should have been a sealed off,
Right.
balloon in my throat, basically.
Oh wait,
So
that
yeah, so
that.
that's interesting you mentioned that though, that sharing, kind of these random things that
hmm
maybe they didn't even know was going on, led to something that helped.
Absolutely. I've learned to just tell all my doctors things,
Yeah,
every single one of them, even though they have. I don't think they would have any knowledge about it
right, right.
because you just never know.
It's true. Yeah. And so I'm curious that the SBS, you said that developed as a complication from
Mhm.
the surgery for you and your mom on
Yeah.
that.
So
Okay.
yeah, so we both had surgical complications that then required us to have some of our small intestine removed. And as a result of that, our small intestine that was remaining didn't function properly. And so short bowel syndrome is a malabsorption rare disease
Mhm.
syndrome. And a lot of people, they talk about how much small intestine you have left and that they make that their criteria. And I had a short bowel syndrome expert who was my doctor, and he was on about that too. But I've talked with other short bowel experts, and really it's about the functionality of the intestine. Because like I have parts of it, we believe, because I don't actually know how much I have left, that should absorb certain things. Well, it doesn't. So,
Yeah.
it's not
So, but it's
always.
not so much about the length of what's left, it's the function of what's there.
Mhm.
That, yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
because you can have, whether it's disease or an injury, it can affect the functionality of any organ,
Right.
really.
Right. And going into your surgeries a little bit, I know that that started at a young age. Do you feel like you were able to maybe, I don't know, if process is the right word, but as a result of you gaining the experience at such a young age, did it change the way you felt about your diagnosis or everything that would happen afterwards? Do you feel like it helped or made it harder?
It made it harder, but I would say that's because I didn't talk about it.
Mm,
I was supposed to only have two surgeries,
mhm,
and that's not what happened. I was only supposed to have an ileostomy for about 3 months.
mhm.
That's not what happened. And so I was very angry. Developed PTSD, and I was depressed. And so I didn't talk to anybody because I blamed my parents, right? Because they gave birth to me. I blamed
Yeah.
my doctor, my pediatric GI doctor, because she's the one that took care of me and said I needed surgery, and she's the one that referred me to the surgeon, who messed up things. And so I didn't talk. I didn't talk for about 5 years. Um,
Well, that's a lot of built up
mhm,
anger, frustration, all the things that come with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
was very alone. Not only did I not know anyone outside of my family, my grandpa and my mom with FAP,
Mhm.
um, I didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So I was very lonely. I was lonely as a rare disease patient. I was lonely as a kid, just in general. And so, but once I started, I asked to go to therapy, when I was about in high school. And once I started doing that, things changed for the better. I started processing then.
And were you able to find a good therapist right away, or was it something you had to maybe visit with multiple before?
I got really lucky. I had an incredible first therapist. And she was the only therapist, the only person really that I talked to about things probably well into adulthood even. I would talk about little things here and there with people. I got to open up a little bit with friends, sometimes with boyfriends. But I really talked to her mainly about anything, for a very long time. But I got lucky. We still talk about her to this day, and
Yeah.
I have no idea. I mean, I know she retired. I don't know if she's still alive. I have no idea, but
What
we
you
still
meant,
talk
yeah.
about her.
Yeah. Well, that I mean that had to have been, life changing for then and for, future things that would happen, I imagine.
Absolutely, it really did. I say that she saved my life.
Yeah.
My GI doctor did too, but in a different way.
Right. Well, I mean,
So
the side or the parts of us that, visit and have that traumatic experience, internally, I mean, that's as or maybe more important even than, some of the medical procedures, it seems like.
absolutely, because I mean, mental health can kill you.
Hmm.
It's not just a physical thing, and mental health can have physical symptoms too, even if you're
Hmm.
not doing things like like intentionally harming yourself or
Right.
unintentionally like starving yourself because you have no appetite.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's a hard and can be
And it's
dangerous
not this,
thing.
I mean, it's not two completely different things, right? Like it's all,
Right.
I mean, part of you. So, I definitely agree that, like one informs the other. And I even to this day, like trying to avoid doctors, avoid checking things because of,
Mhm.
of just worrying about what would happen resulted in very negative things for me later on that, it feels like could have been addressed and been less severe. So,
Absolutely.
I think that's definitely really great that you found that resource early on, for sure. Did it help with like your family in general too? Do you feel like you were able to maybe all come together or get along better or anything on that?
It took time. Like I forgave my parents. I forgave my pediatric GI
Yeah.
doctor. My parents always say they remember the first time I ever hugged her, because
Wow.
she started to cry. Because I was in high school, and I started seeing her when I was 8. And I hated her, and
Yeah.
she knew it. She knew I hated her.
Right.
But yeah, so I forgave them. I think now I've about forgiven that first surgeon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's tricky too because you expect them to be the experts, right? To know exactly what's gonna work, and it's not that
no,
simple.
no. And I wish though that, my parents always, they didn't force me to go to therapy because they were afraid that would backfire.
Mhm.
and make things like I would resent it more. But looking back, I've told them this before. I wish that you had put me in therapy from the time I got diagnosed. And I wish we had gone as a family. I think that would have made a really big difference, even if things had gone as planned.
Right.
But it took time. And I kind of swung the other way though, through my healing process and forgiving them and
Mm.
getting closer to them again. And so I kind of got overly attached,
Mm.
um, which is to my detriment because
Right.
that can be hard when you lose one of those parents. Then,
Absolutely.
but we've had a healing journey, I would say, together. It's been good though. It
Yeah.
turned out well.
Do you feel like the stigma around therapy and everything, do you feel like it's better now than when you were younger, or do you still feel like it's overall kind of viewed as like this negative thing that maybe, other people think is bad for you?
I think it's gotten better. I would say though, like I think it's also generational and
That's true.
also can vary between cultures and also you can see my mom's cat.
Mhm, I see.
uh, and also between men and women too. And so there can be a lot of barriers, a lot of stigmas with that I've noticed too, as far as for individuals being open to therapy.
Mhm.
But I think overall it's definitely gotten better. I think one of the other stigmas though that doesn't get talked about very much is when people have had a bad experience with a therapist and it's like, oh well, I had a bad one and they did me harm and all
Mm.
this stuff, which is terrible. um that should not happen.
Right.
uh, but that can add to the stigma that, oh well, you may have a bad one, and it's kind of like, well, it's like doctors, not all
Right.
are good, not
Right.
all should be in the field. And not that I condone that they had that experience, but it's also an understanding too that even if they haven't told you, you have a right as the
Mhm.
client, just like as with a doctor, to confront and to challenge and to seek a different one out. And I hope that people that do have those bad experiences will try again if they
Right.
feel like they're needing it, because it can be so life changing with a good one.
Right, right. And I think, just from my perspective, it seems like that's a level of patient like self-advocacy in a sense, like knowing that
Agree.
you can change doctors if you're not getting the care you need. And I mean, a therapist obviously would be similar to that.
I would agree. That's such a um, another avenue that's just so important for learning self-advocacy. It's,
Mhm.
a lot of times I know, especially I think older generation, and I think military too, and maybe that's more older generation like my grandpa. You
Mm.
didn't question the doctors. You
Right,
just did what they said. Well, if you have a good therapeutic relationship or patient provider relationship, you can question. You can, when things don't sit right, say, "Hey,
Mhm.
I don't know about, like, explain this better," or "I'm not sure what you're trying to do here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure I agree with it."
Right, right. Well, so the doctors that have been the best for you, what has been kind of some of the things, like was there a discussion where maybe you both came to a compromise or resolution together that, was more favorable?
I think I have a really good team of doctors now, and one of the biggest things I think is that they understand that I have PTSD. So I have a lot of anxiety, and I have a lot of knowledge. So I may go to them with things and say, "Hey, I think this is going on." I'm not looking for things, but that level of trust is really important that I have for them and they have for me, to know, right? I'm not just making up things. I'm not just seeking out things. I
Right.
have things to back this up, and I want you to check it out. But that definitely, it has, sorry for the noise. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. My dog's actively trying to break into my office too. So
But we built that trust over time.
yeah.
And so and it was like through conversations. And I think too, like, uh, they could see my physical
Mhm.
anxiety with
Yeah.
things. But what we would have conversations about, like, this is what I've had before. This is been my experience. Here's my binder of things. Here's,
Right.
but it takes time to build up those relationships, but it
Right.
makes a difference.
And it takes, a doctor being open-minded too, I think, to that,
Mhm.
to, not feeling like maybe the authority figure, but that you're more of a team, trying to come up with the best plan for
Absolutely.
you. And it's like in one sense, yes, it's, your experience, you're the expert of what you're feeling, what your pains are, and things like that. But for you, I noticed too that the level of detail and understanding from some of your blog posts and things about your disease, where it comes from, like how it connects to maybe what you're feeling. Like, how did that, I guess, deeper dive into all of the things causing the problem? Like, has that helped your discussion with the doctors as well?
It has. And I started that, I think, really in college, really starting to try to understand and learn about and take ownership
Mm,
of my health and my diseases. And it does, because we can have very good conversations. And uh, my doctors and I, so there's a lot of times that and I ask questions. I'll look up things and then I will ask them questions of what I don't understand
mm,
or avenues that I'm like, now, does this, is this related? Does this have anything to do with it? And so I ask a lot of questions and I share with them my understanding so they know where I'm at.
mm.
Um, and so I think that's really helped too.
Yeah, definitely. That I think that's always, from my perspective, digging in a little bit deeper is always good. And not in the sense of like Googling like, just random things about how to diagnose yourself or anything like that, but just the actual like microscopic level almost,
Yeah,
reasons for it. So I think that's
absolutely.
really a cool thing to bring to the table that can help as well. Um, I kind of was thinking too, your support system, which obviously is, the therapist that you're mentioning that have been helpful, but like, I guess your family, I see your mom's cat, like your support system overall, like how has that sort of evolved and like has that, obviously been mostly positive or have there been some challenges too with that balance of support?
I think it's been mostly positive. It's definitely evolved because I kind of started with I shunned or I shooed away my entire support system for many years, and then I had my parents, and they were really my support system, and it was only them really. And then I had to, because of my fears and my mistrust, I had to start cultivating a support system, which was really hard because I I've added a few friends to it, but it wasn't, I wouldn't say really until I was out of college, even, that I started growing my support system outside of really three people.
Mhm,
And that included my sorority big sister, who is still like my very best friend. Her and her husband are my best friends, and
mhm,
we are family. So then I grew it to four because she got
mhm,
married.
mhm. Right. Yeah. So they
But
they add to it as theirs goes too.
So it's been a process, but
Yeah.
so and that was part of therapy. I started back to I started trauma therapy specifically a few years ago, and
Mhm,
part of that was cultivating a support system and using the support system.
mhm,
And so and that's the other big key I've discovered is you can have all kinds of friends and maybe they will be there,
mhm.
ride or die. But if you don't use them and accept them as that, then it's not
Right.
going to probably do you too much good.
Right. That's part of the like cultivation that you're mentioning
Yeah.
too, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big part for me because I have a lot of people that care about me, but I
Right.
wasn't using them as a support system. I was just like, oh, they're a friend
And
and
kind
they're
of like
gonna,
further developing that
yeah.
relationship there. Yeah.
Absolutely, which has been really neat because it's also gave me like such a deeper level of gratitude and seeing these people in such different lights
Hmm.
because um, they have come together to support me so much with my mother's death last year
Hmm.
that I never dreamt I would have such a support system. And I really do. I bet part of that's because I let them in,
Hmm.
which I didn't do for a long time because I was like, well, they're not gonna, you know,
Right.
I
Do you feel
can't.
like it's kind of been reciprocal now? Like you also have helped, them maybe dealing with things that are heavier or harder.
I try to.
Yeah.
I am not the best about keeping up with people sometimes, like, but I've tried so much harder, and I think that's also really deepened our relationships. I even one of my cousins, we didn't really talk. We just, like we're Facebook friends and things,
Right.
and I met her a couple of times, and her mom died about 3 weeks before my mom did, and so we have been in touch ever since her mom, when she told me that her mom died, because I didn't realize it. And so uh, just really what they've done, I think, is they've inspired me to be a better friend, a better support. to reach out and not just when someone reaches out to me, or trying
Right.
to keep up better than every few months you have a 6 hour
Right.
long conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it's obviously dealing with, medical things takes so much time. I've found too that, often it's not so much that you don't want to, it's just a matter of you can't, for at least certain periods of time.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's it's exhausting too. It's just your daily things, and then it's hard when you, especially if you do develop a big support system, it's hard to
Hmm.
keep up with everybody, and
Right.
it's a lot. But I'm trying to be
Yeah.
better. They really have. They've inspired me. I'm like, oh, I want to be as thoughtful and kind as you are. Like,
Right. Yeah, actually that's a good
never try
segue into the
that.
social media thing because,
Mhm.
I've found definitely the support and community, behind so many of us with disabilities that share on there, it becomes really, a strong group and I get a lot of support there. But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't know, I only had the support system of family and everything before, which was great, but now it's like, well, how do you cultivate that at the same time as, you have so many people that are maybe reaching out, like are you finding that your social experience has been kind of like that? And how have you maybe coped with or dealt with that better?
I think, 'cause I would say that I just cultivated an online, like a social media support system before
Mm,
I cultivated my in-person one.
mm,
And so in a way it was kind of a lot easier that way, because you can talk on, sorry. Uh in some ways texting or messaging can be a lot easier.
24/7 almost too, right? Like just whenever you
Yeah,
have time.
and
Yeah.
that's the other thing that kind of, so I had to learn boundaries,
Yeah. That's a
because
big one.
yes, and I was not good at that, and it's because not only was I, having people that were giving me support, I wanted to give support back, and so when someone's messaging you and asking for support at all kinds of times of days and
Mhm.
whatever, and sometimes people aren't always patient, and so it can be, especially when you're going through your own things, I've had to learn, I'm still practicing, that it's okay to not respond. um
Yeah, I
you
feel you
know
there.
right, like I'm learning to respond instead of react,
Mhm.
but I also am learning that it's okay to not respond.
Yeah.
And that's a boundary. It's
Yeah.
regardless if you say, hey, I can't talk right now, I'll get back to you when I can, or you just leave it unread.
Right.
um Either one are
Right.
boundaries. And
And that doesn't always mean I mean that it's against
mhm,
anybody else. It's,
no.
your just day-to-day life and things you're going through. You just can't, there's just no way to reach out and respond.
Absolutely. Sometimes you don't have it in you. And that's
Yeah.
kind of something too I've had to learn is in therapy, is that um, my capacity to give may not be the same as your capacity to give,
Mhm.
right? So um, your capacity to receive may also be different from mine. And
Right.
so that doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just, I may not be at a level to receive what you want to give me.
Right.
I'm not there yet, and vice
Yeah.
versa. Or, so learning those boundaries, and then that's okay. And so it's not um so you don't feel let down or resentful, because you acknowledge, look, that person's probably not at that level. They're not at that capacity right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not always at the capacity either, so that's okay. We
Well, I was
can.
going to ask you if you've had
Mhm.
the opposite experience where maybe you were needing or wanting more support and you didn't necessarily get it because of the
Mhm.
other person's boundaries. Like, have you faced that scenario too?
Yeah, like there's we kind of, my mom and I, we had to cultivate family outside of family.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's, I think it was harder for my mom. She took it more personal than I did. Um, but finding that it's sometimes chosen family is exactly what you're needing.
Hmm. That's
And
true.
that can be online family too. It's wherever the people are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Have you had the opportunity to take any of the virtual online friendships to something in person? Like, has that been something you've done a little bit?
Yes, I've gotten to meet Kevin Myers a few times in person. He is an FAP advocate also,
Okay.
and he's an incredible person. I have a few blogs and YouTube videos with him, but we like got to meet at a few functions together, and then he came out and spent a week with me. And so I showed him all around Oklahoma for a week and had to expose him to all kinds of different things. before I let him leave.
Nice. Um, that's funny. My grandpa actually got his degree in Oklahoma. My dad was born there too, so
Oh
that's cool. You have
wow,
that connection.
that is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Um,
fun.
yeah, it's really cool when you're able to kind of, deepen or strengthen that bond there through the in-person stuff too and collaborate on different things. That's I got the opportunity. I've done that once and looking forward to doing a little bit more. But yeah, one of my best friends came from just early social media interaction. We just randomly happened to be in the same place one weekend and
Oh
just it worked
wow,
out. So that's kind of cool to see that,
it
that
is.
happen organically. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really awesome, and it's kind of like I've gotten to. I knew Dakota Fisher, Bond Fisher Vance. Anyways,
Uh-huh.
had seen her on YouTube and things before, and I got to meet her one time.
Mhm.
So it's just neat, even if you don't like really get to talk
Right,
very
right.
often or
Just
things. Just
yeah,
it's a neat experience.
connections.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. It
Yeah.
becomes a smaller world that way.
It does. It's so crazy how social media has opened that up. Like I've had interactions with people in, all kinds of different countries, like
Oh,
Ireland, yeah, even Belgium I had one. So it's really cool how, you kind of bring everybody together more that way. Yeah.
yeah.
As far as like you were talking about trauma and everything, like are there other tools that you have used or found that have helped you, kind of deal with some of that? Because I know I mean, I've only had one surgery, and so I know that each one of those has to be traumatic in its own right. So, I mean, it has to be a lot.
It does. It gets to be, um, I mean, and I would say one of the best things that I've done is the trauma therapy, um, because that's really helped because I can do future templates, future events, so that
Okay.
I can reduce the disturbance level of them before they happen, so that I cope better. But that's also one of the things that my therapist has taught me is the container. And so in EMDR, which is the trauma therapy I'm doing,
Mhm.
you can put things in a container and you just keep them there until you're ready to deal with them later. And
Okay.
that's been really helpful for me because I'm an overthinker. I'm a highly anxious person. And so I don't do well waiting and not tackling something at the
Right.
time or trying to fix it. So that's been really helpful. I've also, it was, oh, I can't remember the name, but Hero, Hero's Journey.
Mhm.
Oh, I'll have to think. But they have these kids and they do martial arts. And then they go and they also teach coping tools to others for their medical experiences. And so um, I watched some of their videos and I got to talk with one of the people. And so they have this ninja needle breathing technique. And so
Uh-huh.
I still do that.
That's a cool
Uh,
term.
yeah. So like especially when I'm getting IVs and things like that, so that I breathe because I hold my breath and that actually makes IVs worse. Um, so
I
little
feel
little
you on
things
the
like that.
RV thing, the IV thing. It's definitely an anxiety of mine.
Yeah, and if you don't breathe, like your vein is more likely to clamp down and then it's probably
Then
not
it's
gonna
even
work and
exacerbating the issue there, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I do things like that. I have
Yeah.
like this stuffed dog that one of my high school teachers gave me.
Yeah.
And so I take it with me. I don't as much now, but
Yeah.
it's a physical comfort thing that I can take and
That's a real thing
um
too. I mean,
mhm.
it doesn't matter. I mean, it's as an adult, it's still totally acceptable, I think, to have those comforts, to kind of help deal with stuff.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's whatever can get you through. And
Exactly.
like I'll have well, I have a nose thing.
Hmm.
I have nose trauma from NG tubes.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when I had to get a COVID test for the first time, I
Oh
took my
man.
dad with me and I was like, you have to restrain my head because I don't think I'm going to be able to not freak out here. And
Right.
well, he didn't hold my head tight enough, so two nurses restrained me. But
Just that reflex.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So there's certain things that I know, okay, I'm just gonna have to tell them they're gonna have to restrain me. If they
Right.
can't sedate me, they're just gonna have to restrain me because I lose control at some point of
Right.
my ability to function.
Like as much as you put your mind to it, like
Mhm.
your reactions are just, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I know I had taken like a Xanax before
Yeah.
and I was fine until they told me to pull down my mask and I just lost it.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I know that now. You guys are just gonna have to help me if there's something
Right.
else you want to stick up my nose.
Right, right. But that's, I mean, part of it too is learning to actually say you have to do
Yes,
this to make it work, because like
absolutely.
I was that way. I mean, I avoided doctors at all costs for
Mhm.
years and years because of things like, needle trauma and, having to
Yes.
try multiple veins and, and it's just, even now I think I have to have some restraint, but also something to calm me down because,
Yeah.
it's a real anxiety. I don't think a lot of people realize how, difficult
No,
that is to go through.
I don't think so either. It's oh, it's just a needle. It's just a, but it's not. I think for most people, it's probably not that what made it traumatic for us in the first place is that it was a needle. It's that
True.
it's the repeat. It's the repeated
Over and
things
over.
that
Yeah.
happened, and even if it's something like just like a lab draw one with the butterfly needle. Okay, so that's like the probably the smallest needle
Yeah.
or almost that they can do. But when you combine that with all the pain of everything else that's happened, it's
Right.
just another level of pain on top of it.
Right. And it's also
It's
the person doing it, I find too, that, I've had some where they're obsessed with the right arm and they will try
mhm,
the same needle 10 times in different places, but then you get the one person to come in and knows what they're doing and they go right to the left arm with the smallest needle. It's like one time and you're done. And it's
yeah,
such a different experience.
it is. And like I've gotten where because I used to always want the vein that's in your elbow, the
Mhm.
crook. Well, I've scarred those up so much because that's where I always told them to go.
Right.
And so now I just go, okay, I'm going to trust you, and you tell me because I've learned that most of the time anymore now.
Mhm.
If I tell them what, because I always preferred, um, I think I always preferred my right arm in some instances, and I had
Mhm.
different instances that I prefer my left or my right. But it got to the point where if I told them where I wanted it, then never it just always would fail. So I'm like, okay, since I have scarred up my two really good ones,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to give up control in hopes that I'll have less days.
We've gone to the same well a few too many times and you just switch it over. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, all right, you tell me which one you think is the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I was relieved when they decided to put a PIC line in for a little
Yeah,
while because it just got rid of that one extra trauma thing that was overbearing.
right.
Yeah.
I never did the pick line. I was terrified of it the way they described it to me. And they offered it to me, and now I'm like, I should have taken the pick line.
Yeah.
But the way they described it to me sounded terrifying and more painful. And I was like, no,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
want that.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wish if you had shown me, or I don't know, but I think
Yeah.
that would make a huge difference
My
from my
piece of
understanding
advice is
now.
if you ever have that, make sure you get someone who knows what they're doing taking it out when you get it removed because
Oh,
it is you need a little bit of expertise to get that removed, where it's not painful. So yeah.
that's good to know.
Yeah,
That's good. So I
yeah.
did not even think about what that would be like
Yeah,
getting it
I
out.
remember I had one person trying to just basically just pull on it, like no
Hmm.
technique, like not deadening the skin around it or anything. It was just like, dude, you got to call somebody else because it's not going to work that way.
Oh wow, that sounds
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a mile long list, I think, for all of us that go through surgeries like that, of
Mhm.
issues. But I thing about you were talking about you have a little plush or like fur toy dog that you take your profile picture. I have to ask you about because that looks really interesting. You're holding like is that like a plushy colon? And
Mhm.
then you have a knife by it. Like, what was I know what the inspiration is, but if you want to talk
Yeah,
just a little bit about that.
yeah, sure. So when I first started Life's a Polyp, which is my
Mhm.
advocacy platform, I had done a drawing for it, and so I did like I was writing a polyp, and I had like a samurai sword because I'm
Mhm.
going in there and I'm cutting out the polyps.
Yeah.
Well, so then I kind of had to um, make it more into a knife because I actually had pictures done, which you're referring to,
Mhm.
and like professional photos. But I had divorced my husband who had the samurai sword. So
Okay.
so I switched to a knife.
Switch weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so I found this colon and I put some little polyps on it myself. They didn't come that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'm cutting out the polyps.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that approach. That, kind of, I mean, it's humorous, if not, I mean, I'm sure a little dark to some
Uh,
people, but I like that kind of thing. I found a little plushie of a gallbladder that I had to get,
mhm.
from my experience removing it. So
Oh, I
yeah,
love
I
that.
like the bringing in some, a little bit of lightness to it. I think is a good
Yeah,
thing. Um,
absolutely. And I'm a little dark myself, so
yeah, yeah. Well, that's nothing wrong with that in my
no,
experience for sure. In fact, it helps cope. Yeah.
right?
as far as the advocacy type things, I know, your presence and you've written a book, right? Or maybe more probably, but if you want to talk a little bit about your advocacy, maybe with, just you and writing, and then if you've been part of organizations or anything for those efforts too.
Absolutely. So I started writing blogs, and then I've expanded that to different social media platforms and doing videos and things. But so I wrote a children's book about FAP and also about colon cancer and ostomies. It's called Life's a Polyp with Zeke and Katie. And I do plan to make it at least a trilogy. I haven't started that process yet. I've got
Yeah.
the ideas up there. I just got to start. But it was a very traumatic experience writing the
Oh
first
no.
book.
Yeah.
So it dredged up a lot. And so part of me isn't ready
Yeah.
to see what will happen with the second book.
So you were
Um,
using like your experience as a kid growing up with FEP and things to like those
yeah.
were the characters you created. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of a mix of things of like my experience and things that like how I wish it had gone, or things like even to the other extreme of things that I didn't experience but could
Mhm.
have experienced, or what other people may
Mhm.
and have. Um, and then I partnered with NORD, the National Organization for Rare Disorders,
Right.
a US based nonprofit. And so I started an FAP research fund with them. And I did have a shop. It got deleted. I had all these different rare disease and chronic illness designs, and
Yeah.
I haven't found a new home for it yet. But I donated all the profits from the shop to the fund,
Mhm.
and I donate a portion of my book sales to the fund as well.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and so Nord's been a really great partner.
Yeah.
Um, they're a really neat organization.
I've done a little bit with them and like their rare disease campaigns and things. They do a really good job, I think, with bringing people with different types of rare disease together to share things. So that's great that you've worked with them a little bit. Your
Mhm.
shop, is that something like what was the experience like? Was it just too much to manage that you had to shut it down, or like what
No,
was?
the company deleted it.
Oh
I have
wow,
no idea why.
that's
And they
weird.
couldn't tell me because I don't have any record of my shop anymore, even.
Okay, that's not
Because
good.
no, and they couldn't restore it. And I'm like,
Huh?
I don't know that I want to do it back with you guys.
Not when it just
But
vanishes that way, huh?
yeah, like they had told me that, well, if you're not active in your profile for so long, it deletes. And I'm like, okay, well, that would be new. But also I don't think I was inactive that long ago. I'd logged in
Right.
like a couple months, and there was no notice that, hey, if you don't log in, we're gonna
Just one
delete
day it's gone.
your entire profile, like the login and everything. I don't know what happened, but they
And it
couldn't
takes time to set those things up too. So I mean,
mhm.
it's not like an easy fix necessarily.
No, and it took, I'm not even sure how long it had been down exactly because I
Mhm.
logged into it like a couple months before I realized. And I think I was just kind of, rearranging some layout on my website,
Yeah.
and I clicked on it just, and then I was like, what?
Where did it go?
What? Like, um, so I still have
Yeah,
my
that's annoying.
designs. I just haven't found a home because
Right.
I need a home for my first shirt I did as a fundraiser for the fund.
Mhm.
Um and it requires a front and a back.
Yeah.
Um and but not all online shops that do things like that for you can do a front and back design on a
Oh, okay.
shirt.
So it has to be
So
just the right fit on
hmm
that too.
so
Yeah.
I've just
Yeah.
kind of put that on hold for now, but
Yeah.
one day I'll have a shop again.
Hopefully it comes back. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I just gotta
that's
find the
great
right
though to
home.
see all the different avenues, that you're working on, spreading awareness and, knowledge of what's going on with that. I feel like that's one of the best things that we can do anymore is just kind of diversify how we get the message out there. Um,
Absolutely. Well, and it's been really an amazing journey for me because I was late to TikTok.
mhm.
But I got connected with We Go Health, which
uh,
became Health Union through TikTok, and that has been an incredible experience for not just FAP and but in rare disease in general, doing advocacy with them and partnering with them, and it's kind of just amazing the connections that you can make on social media.
mhm,
Um,
definitely.
and the doors that can open.
Yeah. In terms of like that social media, how you got started and everything with that, um, do you find that there are certain ways that work better or that maybe require a little bit less overall energy to get things out more efficiently?
I feel like with like with TikTok or like YouTube Shorts,
Mhm.
making a bunch of them when I have the energy and the time to
Yeah.
do it, and then saving them as my drafts. So
Right.
then I can just go in and post one or publish one. That's been, and I am not the best, because it's not my full-time job.
Mhm.
So it kind of, I don't have all the time that I would like to,
Yeah.
but I also don't, I guess because I probably should have taken some classes, but
Yeah,
I
I
kind
know
of
what you
do
mean.
I kind of do things backwards. So like instead of using those little videos like and doing that as a Facebook reel and an Instagram and a YouTube short, I'm just like, I'm only gonna do it this way. And then
Exactly.
and 4 years
Yeah.
later, oh, I'm gonna put it on there too.
Yep. Yeah, there's so many platforms too, and it's just
There
like
is.
if you don't make sure that it's something you can just share across them like all
Hmm.
like one click or something almost. It's I definitely understand how it's like,
Right.
it feels like you're putting in so much effort and getting
It is.
not as much return maybe, but yeah.
Right. And it's like, it's kind of like I had, and I kind of still do. I have like an account across all these different social media platforms, but kind of was learning the boundaries with self-care. I deleted some of those apps. Like my
Yeah.
profile is still there. So you can see what I did before, but I don't keep it up anymore. There's too many. And
Right.
like you said, if one person can be reached, that's incredible. That can be life-changing for that person. Um, you found me on one, please join me on another one that I'm more active
Right.
on and let's connect there. Uh, because I can't, it's too much, especially if it's not your full-time job.
True.
And even then, I don't know how some people would do it because it's just,
Yeah, I don't either. It feels like this, you can put infinite time into it
mhm,
and it can be it can like burn out really quickly,
yeah.
for sure. And so like you mentioned that you have like your main employment is not with social media. How do you balance, kind of the different parts of, having a job and social media plus all, obviously everything else that you're doing?
So I was also late to the game of safe self-care. I didn't know how to self-care
Hmm.
until about maybe 2 years ago. I learned.
Yeah.
But so it wasn't quite as bad, say 2 years ago, and before that, like the balancing of it, because um, for the most part, I could do it, right? Like I'd be doing this and that. But um, it really came to my attention about finding a balance and setting boundaries when my mom died.
Mm.
I didn't have it in me. I'm getting back into it, but it's changed my advocacy. I do talk about myself and my diseases still, but I talk a lot about my mom. Um, and in some ways, I'm still not quite sure how I want to go in the
Right.
future. Like I kind of think I want to switch to do more videos rather than blogs.
Mhm.
But I just basically I was forced to shut down, right? Because I
Right.
didn't have it in me for a long time to really do much.
Hmm.
And part of that too is like responding to people. Um, and so it's been a big learning experience also
Hmm.
in that finding that balance. And what I had to do was um, give myself grace and be like, it's okay not to do anything.
Right.
There's another day. If you feel like it, you feel like it. But if you
Right.
don't, don't. And
Right.
that's just kind of where I had to get to. Before that, I had made the boundary of I had to reserve one day of the weekend to be my recovery day.
Mhm.
Either I had a half day on Saturday and half day on Sunday, or I had a full day on one of those days.
Mhm.
But I had to cut back on activity, regardless, is that outside the house? Is it in the house? Is it advocacy? I had to just no. I'm dedicating
That time for the
to
self-care.
just
Yeah.
recovery.
Yeah.
And if I felt up to doing something with advocacy, then I did. But I
Hmm.
took that pressure off myself.
Hmm.
Because before it was like my dad said, I've always been a little pressure cooker on myself. It's
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I mean, that thing about being your harshest critic, is
Mhm.
it's for real. I think I had that so much too with, expectations of myself. Like, you kind of almost try to push the health stuff aside that you have to deal with, and
Yeah,
you're like, well, I should still be able to maximize and do everything else, and that's just not always the case. So,
no. And it
that's
gets
really good that you've, kind of given yourself that grace and learned to balance out a little bit more.
yeah, it's been a life. I mean, it's been a game changer for me. It's still a learning process.
Hmm.
Like the it's okay not to respond. Well, that
Hmm.
just happened a couple of months ago even, and my therapist is like, you say that you're not gonna talk about something with somebody, but then you
Then you
keep
do.
responding.
Yeah.
So you're sending mixed messages. And I was like, okay, so I need to make a more clear boundary.
Hmm.
Okay. It's still a learning process,
Yeah,
but
well, I mean, it's always going to be an evolution, probably, in some sense, or at least it seems like with me, it's been that way. Yeah,
it is. It is. But
yeah,
it, I think as long as we take the time to reflect on it, we can
yeah,
on the things like we're like, well, I don't like how that went. What do I need to do different to
right.
protect my peace,
And it takes
whatever.
a level of, of like patience and realizing you can
Mhm.
kind of like pull back and be objective and see, what's going on, and realize, oh, well,
Absolutely.
that's not so good. I need to change it, so that's a
Absolutely.
big part of it, I think.
Oh yeah, and it helps too to have someone, even if it's not like a therapist, just as a
Yeah,
sounding board, so that
absolutely.
can tell you, well, I don't know why you're complaining. You're the one that said something back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, just
yeah,
some
that's a good point.
realness to it or something like, yeah, just like objective advice, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
See a different perspective of it.
Yeah, yeah. On your rest days and stuff too, are there like areas that you use to kind of escape and just completely like zone into something that's, completely unrelated to anything else other than you just like to do it?
Sometimes, so I kind of have varied interests that I engage in at times. So like I took a week off work this week to focus on just recovery, to try to give my body some immunity back.
Mhm,
And so it's like, you know what? I think I'm going to do some painting.
mhm,
I had two um, designs that I've been wanting to paint, and so I did one of them, and I started the other one. So I've been doing that, and I like to, and it would benefit me if I did more meditation.
mhm.
And if I can tolerate the heat, I like to garden.
Yeah.
And that can be something. It's sometimes though, it's just something as I'm just going to watch some YouTube videos,
Hmm.
like my favorite YouTube video,
Yeah.
YouTubers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always fun. You can really like escape and get away through there a lot.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I'm going to live through them. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I want to play
Yes.
this game, but I don't feel up to it. So I'll watch you
Yeah,
do
right.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So you have the activities are a little bit less hands-on, and then you have,
Mhm.
kind of your creative like type activities too. That's a good. It seems like it's good to have a distribution of things like that.
I think so too, because right, because it's like some days, you have more in you than other days,
Yeah.
but sometimes you want to do something, besides just I lie in bed a lot, but that's because my mom lied down a lot, I think. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of one of the ways I recover is just relaxing,
Just
lying
relaxing.
down.
Yeah.
Um, so sometimes, if you don't want to lie down or sit up, but you want to do something that you can do sitting is always a
Right.
good option.
Right. I totally agree with you there. Like, the bed days are very helpful, I find,
Mhm.
when you're kind of needing to recover a little bit. So, it's like there's not necessarily a right or wrong approach, I don't think, to your
No.
rest days like that.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of all individual and what you're feeling that you need. Like there's times that I'm like, okay, my body needs to get up.
Hmm.
I need to sit up for a while. I've been in
Move and
bed too
maybe, yeah.
long.
Yeah. And some sunlight too. I find myself
Yeah.
like not having quite enough of that some days. So,
Oh, yeah.
even just a
I'm
few
bad
minutes
about that.
outside. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm really bad about not getting enough sunlight.
Same.
And I
Yeah.
really do. I really I enjoy sitting outside on the patio and things, and I don't know, I've gotten away from it, but
Yeah.
something to get back to.
Sometimes that happens and you don't even realize that it's
Yeah.
happening either. So yeah,
Right. It's just
yeah,
kind of like, oh, I haven't done that.
right, right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. To kind of trying to diversify just on what your body's telling you, it
Mhm.
needs maybe.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing is learning to listen to your body
yeah. That's
and what
that's a
it's
tough one
needing.
too.
Yeah,
It will tell you, but yeah, you got to listen
right.
sometimes. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really great to learn about. Kind of your process for escaping like that too and resting. But um, it's it's been really interesting. It's been great to get kind of your perspective and story, Jenny. But I don't want to take too much of your day. But like for people that are curious and like want to reach out and know a little bit more, like what do you have going now in the future? Something that you want to kind of share.
Well, so I'm definitely I got my office set up. I think pretty much the way I want it.
Mhm.
So not that that was preventing me from doing videos, but it definitely helps motivate me. So,
Yeah,
and I had my computer back. I had it. It was being worked on for about a month, and
yeah.
so I'm planning to do more videos on YouTube. And at some point in the next year or two, I hope to have another children's book out about FAP. Have that second one in that
Of
trilogy
the
I've got in my
trilogy.
head.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds really great. I got to check out the first one now and get ready for the second. So, yeah, that's great to hear. Well, as far as people connecting, are any of the platforms kind of where you have people go, or is there one to kind of find everything else that you prefer?
The main ones I'm on are Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Okay.
You can find my old accounts on pretty much any of the other ones,
Hmm.
but I haven't updated them. Like I do a little bit on Threads, but it's down there. So
Yeah.
those ones for social media, and then my website is lifesapolyp.com,
Mhm.
and then YouTube.
Great. That sounds good. I'll be sure to share that with, viewers and everything. And yeah, I really appreciate the time and, sharing all of your story. And I think the rare disease community, even if it's not the same diagnoses with everybody, I still think that there's a lot of commonality that we share, with
Absolutely.
experiences. Yeah. So I sure appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.